Welcome back, weirdos. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It is Paws and Claws Day here at Marlakris. If you are here for the Paws and Claws, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you're not already, and let's get into it. Today's Paws and Claws is brought to you by Shameless Nails. Shameless was super sweet, as they are always sent over some stuffs for me to play with. So I'm going to do just a basic mani. I actually picked out one particular color that I felt like I had to use. For those of you who saw one of my recent videos, it was my birthday mani. You'll know that I am an Aries. My birthday just passed. It was April 3rd. I turned 39. As I'm doing this voiceover, that hasn't happened yet. And I'm in denial still, but anyway, it is what it is. What are you gonna do? So I had to use this color she sent over. It's called the Ram. And I'm like, how can I not use this? I have to. This is going to be an Aries video. Well, I mean, it's being filmed and uploaded in April, which is Aries territory. So I felt it was only appropriate to use the Ram for a mani. And I figured, what better way to do it? Especially because Shameless loves the Paws and Claws series. So we're going to do some Paws and Claws. I've got some stories for you. I will give you a trigger warning. I have not read these stories yet. I don't know the context of them. I don't know if they're happy or sad or what. But if you're not in the mood for potentially some, I don't know, possibly upsetting animal stories, pass on this video, come back next upload day. But if you saw my last Paws and Claws video, I will leave the playlist up in the cards for you guys. The last Paws and Claws video, I don't know if it can be topped. It was by far my favorite Paws and Claws episode ever. I laughed, I cried, happy tears, by the way, not sad tears. And it was just a feel-good video day. So I don't know. We're going to see how this one shakes out. I have a bunch of stories. I don't think I'm going to get through all of them. I will get through as many as I possibly can. And we're going to jump right into it. Hi Marla, I absolutely love your Paws and Claws series. Thank you so much. And I appreciate the opportunity to share our stories with you. Just so you know, this story starts off sad but ends beautifully. Back in October of 2020, our English bulldog, Dallas, needed surgery to remove a toy that he had swallowed. Surgery went well, but 5 days later he developed seizures that would not let up. As soon as he came out of one, he went right into another. We rushed him into the emergency vet and prayed that he would stop seizing once he was on medication. Unfortunately, the vet could not stop them. He had 11 more full-blown seizures while on medication, 21 total in the last 24 hours of life. My husband and I were devastated, and our 9 and 8-year-old daughters were heartbroken. The house was so empty, and we couldn't imagine bringing another dog into our lives. A few weeks later, an old friend from college asked me to join a group for her rescue that she helps run with a partner down in St. Croix. I joined and didn't think anything of it. Mid-November, they posted a picture of 3 female puppies that were found in an abandoned house full of water bottles, to the point where you could not see the floor, with no mama in sight. They later found the mama had died. Someone in the neighborhood was threatened by her and 2 other female dogs and decided to poison them to protect their livestock. The puppies were so lucky to be alive, and we were still unsure to this day how long they were in there alone without their mama. As soon as I saw the picture, I fell in love with one pup, now my Ivy girl. I was so nervous about adopting a dog that I had never seen and that had such a rough start to life. But we filled out the application and were chosen to be her forever family. On December 24th, someone volunteered to bring her on their flight to the States, and she joined our family at 11 weeks old. She's such a beautiful dog, such a great personality, and loves to snuggle. She has filled the void and brought so much joy and happiness into our home again. Thank you so much for sharing that story with me, and thanks for the warning. I'm so incredibly sorry to hear about the loss of Dallas. That's so incredibly sad, and I bet your girls were heartbroken. But, and I hate saying but Ivy is the cutest little thing ever, and it seems that she needed you just as much as you needed her, and I think it was absolutely meant to be, and she's so beautiful. Thank you so much again for sharing. I did have to read this next story ahead of time for the simple fact that it starts off like this. So first off, I'm not sure you will be able to share this on YouTube for reasons you will see below. So of course, I'm like, all right, I'm going to read this one. And normally I don't. I normally do not read these before I do these voiceovers. So I read it, and it made me laugh. And of course, these stories are always going to be anonymous. So yeah, I'm just going to read it and we'll go from there. As you heard, that's how the story starts off. So first off, I'm not sure you will be able to say this on YouTube for reasons you will see below. Me and my husband moved into our new place Christmas time 2014. After living there for a few days, we noticed a small, extremely malnourished calico cat. We started off by putting food out for her twice a day, and after a few weeks, it was like she understood what dinner time was, lol. If you tried to approach her, she would run, so this went on for a while. Finally, one day, I put down the food bowl and sat next to it. She came over extremely low to the ground, but once she realized I wasn't going to touch her, she settled down to eat. Over the space of the next few weeks, she started letting me stroke her, and even came to me to be petted if I wasn't beside her food, but she would not go into our house. We lived in England and have notorious bad weather, and one night it was particularly bad, so I asked my husband to go and get her. He brought her inside, and that would be the end of her story, happy ending and all. Unfortunately, last year we had very bad sleet and hail, and Callie, as we ended up calling her, was outside. We didn't see her for a week, and day one we put up posters and rang every center we could think of. One night my husband was outside and came rushing back in, certain that he heard the cat crying. I rushed outside and heard her. She was trapped in our neighbor's shed, and they had locked the shed with her inside. Bear in mind, it was around midnight when this happened, so I was scared she was going to die in there with no food for a week, so I started banging on the door, asking them to help me, and when they didn't answer, my husband jumped in the garden, accidentally broke the lock on their shed, and let her out. We took her straight to the emergency vet, and although malnourished, she was totally fine. She is our baby, and is the sweetest little thing ever, always there to make me smile when tomorrow feels unbearable. You're amazing, first of all, and so is your husband. Y'all are my kind of people. I would not hesitate to accidentally break anything to save one of my fur babies, or one of my human babies for that matter. Thank you so much for sharing that story with me. Marla, I was hesitant to send you my story because it's not nearly as impressive as the ones you typically read on Paws and Claws. I find that doubtful. Mine is just a story about finding true love at 41. Just to be clear, I'm speaking of my puppy, Charlie, although my husband's pretty great too. All my life, I've only ever had cats for pets. My mother had always been afraid of dogs, so pet cats were our only option growing up. Because that was all I knew, I only had cats once I ventured out on my own. Fast forward many, many years to when I meet my husband, Ryan. Ryan is allergic to cats, but not dogs. Ryan and I moved into our brand new house over a year ago and suddenly found ourselves longing for that companionship that only a pet can bring. His allergy took the option of a kitty off the table, but my husband insisted we should get a dog. While I always thought dogs were cute, I was worried about whether or not I could really be a, quote, dog person, but it was either a dog or no pets, so I decided to give it a try. I always had a serious soft spot for shelter animals, so I would often browse our local shelter's social media accounts. One day, I happened across a post about a litter of mixed breed puppies that had just been born at the shelter. They were only a couple of days old, tiny, chubby little things with closed eyes. They were too precious for words. We waited for what felt like forever for them to be put up for adoption, and then raced to the shelter the day it was announced they were ready to go into homes. Due to COVID restrictions, only my husband and teenage daughter were allowed in first. Inside the kennels, the puppies were all playing and ignoring the passing humans. But when my husband and daughter approached, one puppy immediately stopped playing with his brother and sat down and stared right at them, as if to say, "Daddy? Sissy?" It seemed that Charlie had somehow been waiting for us. By the time, I'm getting emotional already, y'all. By the time we were all able to get into a room and hold Charlie, we had fallen in love with him. 9 months later, Charlie and I are inseparable. He is the absolute canine love of my life. I had no idea what I had been missing out on for all these years. I live for the way Charlie runs to me when I come home as if he hasn't seen me in 10 years. For the way he piles his 65-pound body onto my lap when I'm sitting on the couch. As if he was a normal-sized lap dog. For the way he trots next to me when I take him for walks. For the way he likes to photobomb all of my Instagram selfies. And for the way he curls his warm body up next to mine when we sleep, even though he actually steals the covers. For the way he sits right by my side in the kitchen when I'm cooking dinner, hoping I'll accidentally drop a piece of food. He's smart, he's funny, he's energetic, and just full of personality. He brings something to our family that I cannot describe in words. I think he knew that we were supposed to be his family that day at the shelter. I can really feel his love every day and couldn't be more crazy about him. My husband, ever the I told you so guy, just said to me a few days ago, "So I guess you're a dog person now." To which I replied, "No, I'm a Charlie person now." I love this story so freaking much. Oh, I don't know why it's like the happy stories that always make me so emotional. Thank you so much for sending me this story and for sharing with me and the whole Manny fam. I think we all need that. We all need a Charlie story in our lives, if not a Charlie proper. I'm so glad you all found each other. This story is called Ghostly Paws and Claws. I'm into this for so many reasons. Okay, let's go. Growing up many years ago, we had 2 family dogs. Pixie was our first. She was a terrier mix. And Gretel, oh my gosh, that's cute. Mind my cat tearing up a scratching post in the background? So sorry. Terrell has no manners. Gretel was a long-haired dachshund. Gretel grew up with Pixie as her playmate and was very attached to her. As the years wore on, Pixie passed and life moved on. Probably about 5 years after Pixie departed our life, I was home from college on a bright sunny day making myself a PB&J sandwich for lunch. That's right, I said sandwich. Gretel and I were the only ones home that day, and I was at the counter spreading the PB on my bread and clearly heard Pixie's nails chattering across the floor in a distinctive manner. I was startled and quickly turned to look over my left shoulder, expecting to see her. I noticed that Gretel had stood up with her tail wagging in the air and began to bark in the direction of my family room. Of course, there was no Pixie to see, but Gretel and I heard her. Gretel then ran in the direction the noise had come from and smelled around looking for her. She looked up oh my God, I'm getting chills. She looked up at me as if to say, "Where'd she go?" I reached down and patted her, saying, "I guess Pixie came by to say hi." Chills did go up my spine at first. I think it's now a sweet blessing to have her visit, even though it was fleeting. I currently enjoy life with my 5 doggies and recognize their individual barks and the sound of their movements across the floor, as they are all individuals, and we become attuned to the idiosyncrasies that make them special. They too recognize the locking beep from my car from any other and know that I'm home before I even turn the key in the lock. I do not remember telling anyone this story before, but when I heard your last Paws and Claws video asking for a ghostly story, I instantly remembered this encounter and thought I would share. You have my permission to share this video as you wish. Thank you for all the videos. They have helped me learn to dip. I used to do my nails with gel polish, but I've joined the, quote, very allergic to gel crowd. Dipping with my acrylic powder was a genuine game changer, and your videos were one of the first I came across. Thank you. First of all, you're so welcome. Happy to have you here. Also, thank you so much for this story. I got all the chills, all the full body chills from this, and I 100% agree that, and this happened in another story, I think maybe in the last Paws and Claws that I did, where animals will come back in some way, shape, or form and let you know that they're still a part of your life. And I think this was absolutely no exception. Thank you so much for sharing this with me and the rest of the Manny fam. I think I may have time for one more video. What, Marla? One more story. This one looks short, so we're gonna see if we can squish this one in here. Hey Marla, I figured I would share my story as I sit here listening to the recent Paws and Claws video. Thank you so much for sharing. This happened 13 years ago. A friend and I went for a walk and we saw a dog that was chained up in the yard, and the owner was just hollering and screaming at the dog and kicking him. I have feelings already, but I will digress and keep going. I named him Groover. You'll see why in a little bit. I rushed over there and got in between the owner and Groover and ended up taking a kick to my knee. Groover was behind me, whimpering and growling. We called the police and they showed up. Groover would not let anyone near him, so I asked if I could try to get him to calm down. They allowed it. It took me about 5 minutes to get near him, but once I did, he just sighed and licked my hand feebly. I helped him get into the car. I checked up on his progress at the shelter, and he wasn't doing so great there. He was going to be euthanized because of his age. He was 16, and because he was aggressive. I told him that I would take him home. I asked what it would take for me to do that. I paid the adoption fee, had to sell games in a game system to do so, and I took him home. When I picked him up, his demeanor just changed. He became goofy, a lovable boy who loved to dance. That's why I named him Groover. I only had him for 2 months before he passed away, but he was by far the best dog I'd ever had. That's my story of how I had the best dog in the world, even if only for a few short months. You know what? I want to hug you so hard right now. I think you did an amazing thing. And not just, I don't know if I'm going to say it. Being in a shelter, because I have volunteered at my shelter for almost over 3 years now. And I can tell you, because I've also adopted cats from my shelter. I have 5, in case you guys didn't know that. And personality is so different in the shelter versus being in a home. And I feel like I can't say that enough. Just because an animal acts or appears a certain way in the shelter doesn't mean that's how they're going to be in your house. And this is why, I don't know if every shelter does this, mine does. We do a foster to adopt program, so you can foster an animal for 2 weeks, see how it goes in your house, and then you can decide if you want to adopt them or not. And I think that's so incredibly important, and I hope more shelters do it, because you can't gauge an animal's personality in the shelter. I mean, some can, but most I feel are just so incredibly different. I'm going to give you the example of my cat Hira. My cat Hira, I adopted from my shelter. She was at my shelter for about a year, and she was very antisocial. Didn't really want attention, didn't really want anything from anybody. She loved to hang out in her kennel. Her kennel was always open, but she would just like to hang out in there. And one day, for some reason, I'm like, I'm going to get this damn cat to play with me. So I grabbed a certain toy, and I started playing with her. And she got down on the floor, rolled over on her back, belly up, and just started playing with this toy. And I'm like, I'm taking this damn cat home. I came home. I don't know what. I came home, got right back in my car, and drove back to the shelter. And she is the sweetest little love bug ever. I know she was semi-feral when she was in shelter. She was a street cat, you know. That's her romping around my room right now, in case you can't hear it. But she is such a smush. She loves to snuggle, loves to be snuggled, gives all the kisses. Like, she's the sweetest little thing ever. So I don't know why. I mean, I do know why, but it's a shame that people judge. There she goes again. It's suiting and appropriate that I'm doing the paws and claws right now. Yeah, I wish people would give shelter animals a better chance and not judge them totally based on how they appear in shelter. But thank you so much for sharing that story with me. Now that I've finished my entire mani, here it is. This is The Ram by Shameless Nails. If you guys haven't checked out Shameless yet, I'm going to leave their info down in the box for you guys. They are such an amazing company. There are 2 of them. But they are also fellow weirdos. So I love to support not only a small business, but this is our family. You know, there's a reason I call you guys the Mani Fam, and this is why, because we're a family, and I like to support family. To finish up my mani, as always, with my Candi Skin Care cuticle oil. I'm still obsessed with Twilight Woods. I'm waiting for a new scent, because I know whatever she comes out with next, I'm going to form a new obsession with. If you guys have a paws and claws type story, any kind of animal story, it doesn't have to be paws or claws. It could be any kind of animal, ghost animal, as you heard, animal encounter type story, anything at all. Feel free to send it to my Paws and Claws Gmail address. I'll leave it on the screen and in the box. Thank you guys, as always, for being here, for hanging out, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll catch you in the next one. Love you. Bye.